In fact, piracy actually, it's funny. Most people talk about the pirates or whatever. The truth of actually is that if some certain ships, people learned a long time ago that if you ship to certain ports, your cargo will not be sold by you, and you will never see your ship again. Your ship will be boarded by people, the pilots, basically. When they come aboard, they would have people with them, and basically your ship would be taken over, and you would be in luck because you are near a port and you could swim to shore. And you'd be tossed from your ship. And then they would pilot your ship in and offload your cargo. And Anton or some black person would be like, I wonder what I'm going to get today. And he would go down to the port. And they would cut open the locks on the containers. And then he would say, oh yes, nice new suit, yes. Black guy. I like this one. Certain companies started hiring, mostly it was ex-Vietnam vets, basically, that were like, and basically would scare off to what's called, to try and get their ships into port or whatever. And realistically, you just don't go there. You just don't go to the cities that have Anton around, or Antons. He actually became like a, what's called, self-proclaimed atom man or something that had nuclear bombs or something like that, and basically left over whoever. Anton, Atom Man, or Ammon, or something like that. Anyway, some black guy. Yeah, I don't really know. Some black guy that basically hangs around certain cities, basically. And they actually keep him, like, he can't even go on to the city anymore because basically people know who he is and what he's about, all that. A lot of people become very famous, mostly not on TV and whatever. On TV, he tries to look good and say, oh, yes, I get on my best suit and I go down and I look for work. He's really just going down to see who he can rape today. Or see what his private shipping port, which sometimes they do that too. It's like, yes, direct your ship over to that port over there. Yes, and then they board it even easier. Like, and take the crew there. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, we're basically, any big ships, unless you are actually a government and actually have 50 people or 50,000 people behind you that can actually defend your ship, your cargo will not get anywhere. And basically, anyway, they have this whole thing where it's like, oh, yes, you buy in my store. And basically, Anton has his own private line of clothing and stuff. And where there's actually like whole lines of clothing and whole lines of merchandise. And you're actually buying something that was stolen. And possibly the crew and even the people who own the factory died. Anyway. The world is a scary place. Yes, the world is a scary place in the open market. Yes. Yes. It is very, 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 very unwise to invest in certain things this year. I think Anton actually has a list of companies he's stolen from. And he's quite proud of it. Anyway, I don't know. You'd have to. That's why you actually want to go to these places before you actually buy there, and don't say who you are because you won't. Anyway, and don't be a woman because you're probably going to be raped. Anyway, I don't know. It depends. It depends on who you are. Believe it or not, they actually keep lists of people, and it depends on how rich you are, who they think you are, in these ports, about whether or not you're going to be accosted. And it also depends on whether or not anyone will ever find out about you being raped or killed. In all the places, including the U.S. It's really horrible. They have this whole thing of police and CSI and, yes, crime scene investigations. And realistically, probably Nixon or somebody started it. Nobody cares. Police are often the biggest sellers of drugs or whatever, and that's dependent on the police chief and all that stuff. It began somewhere around 1920. I tried to clean it up a little bit, but it never really took, as they say. At least in Mexico, they're somewhat honest. We charge you $50 to not die today. Anyway, there's degrees of how crooked or bad they are. And whether or not they let anyone know it. Anyway, I don't travel, so I don't really know, and they don't let me travel anyway, because I might actually see some things. Anyway, though, but besides, it's also like, that's also why I lived a little while, is because I am Lucifer Star. I did not know these things when I was a child. And Anton would say the same thing. I did not know these things when I was a child. But anyway. I mean, mostly it's been cleaned up because mostly the population has basically been tired of being shot and raped. And mostly women. I think women are mostly responsible for the cleaning up of the world. Because there is no possibility of business and all these companies, when mostly there was my Auschwitz sites that had chairs for sale as well as other things, and basically no one wanted to buy them. Why buy them when you can just steal them? Or kill whoever works at the factory. And then have your own factory. Anyway, in places like this, it was happening a lot. Anyway. Mostly Vietnam was more about mostly Vietnam vets. They would get a job, go to become a military person, go over there and basically like, let's see what we can get today. Yeah, I want that car. Thank you. Everyone was doing it. Anton would say, everyone was doing it. Everyone was doing it. French speaking, whatever. Anyway, if you talk to that French guy, you might actually find out some real stuff about everything that was going on in the world. It was pretty bad. It was really bad. Mostly I scared them. You might say that I scared them straight, but not so much. It's still going on. It's just that I mostly eliminated the worst of the worst. And other people eliminated the worst of the worst. And it's more like how long a city can actually maintain some semblance of normalness. It was bad for the tourism company. That's why they stopped. Anyway. It depends on where you are. Anyway, it's actually mostly Nixon and JFK that started all this going. Because other people used to know about me and used to know what would happen. And mostly it was also because I offered hope and also because I was an epic creator. And mostly because there was 800 galaxies actually watching the Earth. Anyway, it's just bad, and I was just like, at the time I was like 9 years old or 10 years old, I was crying, upset, and just sick of all the death. Anyway. There was no possibility of civilization on this planet. I actually gave up on civilization several times. I was like, there's no possibility of any kind of growth or anything. All is just rape and killing. What's the point? My report on Earth was, I always do a report on every planet that I do and have, and every colony. And my report on Earth was devastating and horrible after I did it. And basically, anyway. So, anyway, I'm just like, whatever. I'm over it. And I'm the most richest, most powerful person ever in existence. The kind of person that people were actually dragged off into the darkness and they did not know who got them or how they disappeared. Or how they died. Or what happened to them after they died. And some people thought that they would be able to find the people that had been drug off into the middle of the night or disappeared. They're not even in this dimension. They're not. I took certain people billions or zillions of miles away. Had them moved. Nobody will ever see them again. And then some of them, the bad ones, were tortured for years. We saw how many times people could be driven insane or how much people could actually endure. Since they had caused such a problem for everyone and myself, well, anyway. It gets complicated. I don't like things complicated. And I don't like a headache. Anyway, whatever. It's trillions of years old now. Doesn't even matter. I mean, I just didn't tell anyone for 50 trillion years. This is the first time I've ever really told anyone. With these videos and other things. And plus, what they actually got out of me when they drugged me back in 1960.